Hello everyone, welcome back to day 2 of our Git for DevOps series. So in today's video, we will see little deep of our Git, like what Git is, and we'll see that how it is different from the previous version control systems, right? There was a time like in industry, somewhere in 90s, 2000s, right? There was another tool called CVS, which was used, which is I think concurrent version system, which is a very old version, and nowadays I think nobody was using it. And there was one more because there was few difficulties with this, and now we have this SVN, which is again a subversion tool. So these both tool were there was a problem with these two, right? They were able to track your versions, right? They were good enough to track your whatever the file you are maintaining, they were able to track. But those were the centralized system, right? They or maybe whatever the developer who is using that, if I talk about the CVS. So CVS was completely centralized. If developer needs to access this server, right, they need a network access. It has very limited features. I would say there was no branching workflow. There was no very weak merging, I would say, and it is almost nowadays out of the industry. Nobody is use. It is completely outdated. Whereas then subversion was introduced, and it was also a completely centralized version of your solution where it was little bit powerful apart from if I talk about the CVS. But again, here we have the branching and the merging was introduced. That was fine, and it is again a centralized. So we have the network dependency, right? So if network goes down, right, we will not be able to use it. So let me introduce first what is centralized, and then probably I will show you how Git is different from this. Let's say you have this server, right, where your code is running and you guys are keeping your code on this server. All code, whatever the version history, and you are doing, right? Your developer is pulling the code, making some changes and pushing back to this server, and you all are happy, right? So it is sounds like very simple architecture, right? There is no permission control, easy for beginner to start for this, right? But there was a if you have a pros for this, right, then obviously there is a con for this. We have a difficulties, we have a problem with the centralized type of subversion control. And what was this? One of the biggest was single point of failure. Why? Because this is something have mentioned that you need a network access to access. If you lost your connection, right, if you lost your server, then obviously it is was a single point of failure, so you lost your code. There was no offline commit. You need to you have to be online if you want to work with that server, right? And it was very slow. If server is down, there will be no work. That's what we just discussed, right? Then in order to overcome all these problems, then we have a Git introduced, and that was completely a distributed solution. Like we have Git. There was another tool called Mercurial. Yeah, Mercurial was also there, but Git was very popular. Nowadays, everybody is using the Git, almost everyone, and this is the completely distributed system. So let me summarize what is distributed and what is how it is different from the centralized server. Right. So distributed is not something, it is again a server which is sitting somewhere in a remote server. But what is happening is we have that repo, right? Let's say this is the repo, and what is happening is we have a copy of the same repo with developer 1, developer 2, developer 3. So that was the benefit with this, right? If you need to work with any time, right, you don't need to rely on the remote server. If your server is also offline, you can work, right? Because you have your copy inside your system, inside your own laptop where you can go and you can work anytime. And if you can work offline, obviously you will get a faster performance. It is better for to manage the branch, merging, right? There was no single point of failure since you are keeping your code or whatever the file you are managing offline inside your own system, right? You can still collaborate with your team. I will tell you how you can do and all these things, and you can recover, right? If you lost your system offline, right? You have the possibility. You can go and you can clone that repository from the remote server again, and then you can do it your work, right? So it is a little bit complex, I would say. Where was a for central server, it was a very straightforward architecture, but for this one, it is a little bit complex. And obviously, if you need to clone that particular thing, right, because you are keeping that code offline on your system, so you need some kind of disk space as well to accommodate that code, right? There you don't need to do everything was on sitting on central server, you just connect and you were working. But here you are keeping the track on your system, so obviously you need a disk space. So yeah, a short story, if I just tell you the little bit difference between centralized and distributed. So for centralized, let me put like this. I'll just copy, and this was the distributed. So I would say, if I just say the server dependency for this centralized, it was high, whereas for the distributed, it was very less, right? And you can work offline. No, here you can work online. Yes. And what else we have discussed is it is a slower performance and it was a faster performance, obviously, right? And if something goes down, right, so here will be high impact and here will have a low impact. The repositories, like the identical repo, right, like the copies of your repos here are sitting on the one server, but here we have that almost each developer can have their copies of this property, right? And this is extremely common nowadays. Centralized was very rare nowadays. I don't think that if you found somewhere, then probably you just mentioned, you can say that SVN still might be getting used somewhere. But yeah, this distributed, that is the feature makes Git more popular, and now everybody is commonly use this server, right? So in one line explanation, I would say, so centralized version control system is one single server which controls everything. Whereas on the other hand, if I talk about the distributed version control system, so everyone is having a copy of their repo and they work and independently. So that was the centralized and distributed. If I come again to that Git, right? So that was, we have understood here it is a distributed version control system, and that is the feature which makes it more popular. All right. So first thing, the track changes. What do you mean by track changes? Let me give you an example here. Let's say you are working on one project, right? And that project is something, let's say you are developing one website, right? You have a team of developers. Maybe you, what have you had done is, you being a developer, you are just working on the front page where you are just putting some titles, you're working on some backgrounds, or maybe you are just working on some buttons which can you can navigate to different pages of your website. And that's with let's say it is with developer 1, right? Now developer 2, you have assigned a different task. Let's say you have defined on the contact page, you have asked him to update all the contacts and the pages, the support, email, whatever that you have done, right? Similarly, for the developer 3, you have asked him to manage the backend code for the login, right? If a user needs to log into that particular, so somewhere you need to put that mechanism, right? And the developer 3 is working on that login code for your website. Now you can see that here what is happening is, you have a different task assigned to each developer, right? Now what is happening is, you are you have been asked. Now developer 1 has done their code, developer 2, all developers have finished their code, and you have pushed that code to a repository and you build, and your website is up and running. Now everybody is happy. Now you got a feedback from the maybe your testing team or maybe from your end users, right? There was a typo, let's say, in the support page, right? Or maybe on the login page, there was a request like you need to put a icon on the login page of your company, right? Now you need to work on that code again. Similarly, you can just clone that repo and you start working on that login, do something, right? And once you are testing it, right, what you found is, okay, it is working fine, and you have pushed that code back again. But when you have done it, there was some another issue, right? XYZ reason. Your code was not working in the production environment, and you need to roll back. Now you can see that you have lot of pages which you need to deal with. Obviously, you need to have a hundreds lines of code, and within the same file, maybe or in the different file, you made changes. Being a human, it is very almost impossible to get remind like where you have done the changes, right? And if you need to roll back, then there will be a problem. Obviously, there is a solution. You can take a backup of all these files and then you can just simply run your application using that backup file. But again, it is something that you are working as a distributed, then you don't know like at what stage you have taken backup. Maybe at the same time a developer too has done some changes, right? So from a backup perspective, it is very hard to keep a track, right? So that's where the Git feature, a track feature, right, that helps us to track. So whenever you pushed your code, right, let's say you have pushed here and it has made that commit one. Now you have pushed again some enhanced feature and now it has made commit two, right? And this is the push you have done where you have put the commit three, but somehow it become a error code, right? Now you need to go back to the commit. So easily you can go and roll back to your previous commit, right? How you can do that, that maybe we'll talk about later, but that is the feature I was talking about. That's how that it can track your changes. And how it can track your changes, because when you add your file, right? So what is happening is on .get file under objects, it has cached the state of that file, right? Whatever the exact copy of whatever you are asking your Git to track, it has cached that object. And whenever you are modifying that particular file, it will find, okay, it is not matching the copy which I cached earlier. So it has highlighted, okay, this file is being modified, or maybe it is a newly added file. And if you want to track that as well, that again you need to add that. I will show you how you can do that. The second feature was is work in parallel. That's what we already discussed, right? Being a distributed solution, right? It is very much possible that you can parallelly work. As I mentioned here, right? You can just copy or maybe you can clone that work and you can easily work. And once you're done, you can push your code to that particular code, right? But now, let's say if you are, because Git is smart enough to identify, let's say if on the same file, on the title file, let's say, and developer one is also working and developer two is also working. So Git knows its way how it can accommodate changes from the both developer inside that file. Yeah, there will be a class. Let's say if you both developer has changed the same line of code, then maybe there will be a class. Then you need to instruct your Git, okay, which code you need to accept. That is a different story. But yeah, Git has a smart feature which can automatically identify the way if a same file has a different changes from a two different developer, then it can go and it can accommodate both changes, right? And that's where it comes as a collaborate easily, means that you can collaborate with your team, you can collaborate with your people, the developer, what is that working, and they can go and they can go and give you that liberty, right? You can work easily. So that's what the Git is making these features more powerful and more popular nowadays. Now, in the previous video, we have when we were discussing the content, right? We have highlighted this Git workflow. Obviously, what you need to do is, let's say this is the project folder where I am working, okay? I have added my configuration file or my code file, whatever it is done. That is sitting my locally, right? It is not working. It is just in sitting in my working area. So this I would say working area. Okay. Now, what is next? What is next is that your is a staged area where you have what you can just add your, or maybe you can commit. This is your working area where you just need to add your configuration, where you have that initialize, right? You are creating a new config or modifying existing config file. Existing config file, and then you are adding those file to a working area so that Git can track those, and once that is done, then you can commit with a beautiful message which states about okay what was the change was done, right? And once that is done, then there is a last is repository, which is again sitting on somewhere central, and it is the final destination of your code where you can just go and keep your code. So that's how this workflow works, right? Now there is a some industry best practices, right? Uh, Technically, Git will not stop you like how many number of files you are going to add or you are going to commit, and then you can push it to your repo, right? That's technically it will not stopping, but in order to follow the best industry standard, right? It is recommended that whenever you are pushing or you're committing that number of files, right? It is always a good practice if you just keep only those file which is like required to that particular change. Let's say this login feature I am working, right? And uh, I have around 15 files where I have this code for this login feature, right? And I have been asked to update that icons, or maybe I have been asked to enhance some feature in this login code, right? See, at the same time, another developer which is working on that support page where was the typo of spelling which we just discussed, right? That is also done. So both developer has confirmed on day that okay they have done their changes, they have tested everything, and they are good enough, and they can easily push this code, right? So technically you can push both. You can technically push this file as well, and you can push these file as well with the single commit, right? And you can just give that message, okay, fixed, let's say that support and login file. Now that's done, right? Everything is good. We have done. But there is, once you have done that, right? Somehow there was a still bug in this login file, and after pushing it, it is not working in the production environment. Now you need to roll back. You can roll back, that's also fine. With the Git, you can easily roll back your, because it keeps track of your versions. But here there is a problem now. Whatever the task was done by developer to support, right? It has fixed the typo or whatever the requirement was. That was working fine, and it was working in production as well. But once you roll back with the single commit, what is happening is this file also came back to a previous version where we have the typo, right? So that is the reason it is recommended, instead of putting everything in a single commit, until unless that change is related to a one requirement, you need to push it with a different commit. So here I could have single commit for the instead of single commit, I would say first commit where I have fixed the support, and I can keep another commit where I can uh, for fixed login page error, right? Now what is happening is, if you still have error with this login and you need to roll back, then you can come to this where you are at least this message, this support, right? This part is fixed, So now only you just need to deal with this. That is what that it is always recommended to go with the single commit with the single requirement. And how you do that with all these git init status, I will show you right now. So what I will do is I'll go back to my machine which I have created for this course only. So here you can see this is the machine. What I'm going to do is I will gonna create a new directory called project web. Okay, and I will go inside that project web. Okay, there is a typo. Let me fix that. Or maybe I would say my web. Mm, okay, and now I will go to that my web. So I am inside the my web and I have added few thing here, right? So before that, what is happening is, right, as of now you can see I have nothing. So in order to initialize the Git, right, you want that, okay, this my web project, whatever the file I'm going to write with this, I need to keep those file inside that. So in order to initialize your repository for Git, you need to run git init. Obviously, you need to install a Git inside your VM also, right? If you are using a which one? If you are using this something called Linux, right? Let me just uh, increase little bit font here. Okay, now I think we are good. So that installation part I will show you in the next video, but just to give a introduction of Git, what Git is and how it works. So I thought just to bring all these things. Okay, now if I go and I will see now I have added this .git directory. What .git directory is? Git directory is .git is something that which helps Git to track your all things, right? Let's say you have the object. So whatever the files you are going to put inside your this project folder called my web, Git will keep caching of those file, right? It will cache those object under object. Similarly, we have the hooks, which will help you to in a kind of automation pipeline, which we will see later in this course. If you have that config, what is the like user or the author of that particular file who is going to commit all these things. Similarly, we have the branches, head. So later on, slowly and gradually, when we move forward to this course, I will gonna explain each and everything to you, right? But short story, in order to keep the track, you need to initialize your thing. Now I don't have anything, right? If I just say run git status, so git status is nothing. Git status is just to check the status. If I come here to this file, I have already initialized, right? Initializing empty git repository in that project folder I have done, right? It has added this. Now what I will gonna do is I will gonna add a file called this. I'm just adding that one file called first file, and it has content this, right? Earlier you can see that no branch master. On branch master is something whenever you are sitting on that particular master, right? It will just show you that okay, this is the master branch. No commit yet means as of now there is nothing has been tracked. Let me come back to this my web, and yeah, now you can see as of now also nothing has been added, right? No commit yet, but we have already initialized the git, so it has started the tracking, and it is saying that okay, according to me there is a untracked file which is outside of my tracking. If you want to track that file, what you need to do is you need to add that file so that it can be included in the commit. So that's what we are saying here. Git status is fine. Now what you need to do is, it is what that it is saying is shows on which branch you are, no commit, if any commit made, untracked, the list of untracked file. As of now, we have already one file, so it is showing only one file. Now what you need to do is you need to push this file from your like project folder to a working area, right? Let me add this git add, and I am just specifying the name of that file. If you have multiple files, you can give that list of file here with the space in between, or simply you can say git add dot. Dot means that in the current directory, if there is any file which is untracked or modified, that will get added to that working area. Now, if I'm gonna run that git status, what it is saying is I have one change to be committed. Earlier, the color was red, now the color is green, and it is saying it is a new file, right? Now that is done. Now, if you want to push it to the staging area, what you need to do is you need to commit that with the message. M flag stands for the message, and you need to give some useful and the descriptive message, right? So that later on, also, if you want to see, okay, what has been done that particular commit, so that you will find, okay, this thing was fixed. This has been done in that particular fix. That is the reason this message is very, very helpful and very, very important to keep some descriptive related to your change or the modification or maybe the initial change, whatever that you are doing. But since we are adding a uh, the first commit, so I would say initial commit. Done. Now you can see it haven't done, right? It is saying that okay, you need to give me some little bit advanced information. Why it requires that information? Why? Because whatever this commit you are doing, right? Commit is doing what? Commit is just keeping the record of each change in the repository, and apart from that, keeping that change, it requires who has done that, right? Because in working in a big team, right? So everybody should know, okay, there was a particular commit has been done, but you should know, okay, who has done that, right? So in order to do that, what you need to do is you need to run that command called git config, and you need to just say user dot email, I would say admin, or maybe I would say developer1 at path4cloud.com. I have added this. Similarly, you need to give, because user email is required if something goes wrong, right? So that the another person to reach you with that, right? And I would say the username was developer1. Now, if I try to commit it with the same message, let's see. Mm, this one. Now you can see that it has done one initial commit. And the moment I have done it, if you have not noticed, let me highlight, the prompt has been changed from this to master, right? I will give you a hack where you can keep some additional line of code in your profile so that it will give you this colorful prompt, so that whenever we are working in the Git, right, it is a kind of good thing, so that it will give you, okay, in which branch you are working as of now, right? So that way you can see what it has done is it has given me the initial commit, and it has, now if I gonna run this git status, I would say nothing to commit, working tree is clean. That means what we have done is we have pushed our, we have created a new config, right? We have added to our working area, and now we have committed to the staged area. Whenever we are ready, we can push it to our central repository. So that's how this gonna work. Now let's see some little advanced command for the git. This we have already seen, right? If you want to add multiple file, you can either you can keep the name of the file, or you can just say the add dot, and it will gonna add all the files in the current directory, and it will gonna add dot. If you need to add, you just need to specify a particular file, then you can specify the name of that file. Then before we commit, we need to set our identity, that we have already done, right? Because it needs to track what it has to done, who has done that commit and particular thing. And we have given some message and we are good. Once we commit any file, Git saves the exact copy of the file in the Git folder and under object, because it has cached that. That's the way it gonna track that file. Now let's see. Now you have done. You are up and running. I'm just pretending that everything is up and running with this file. Now I need to add some additional thing in this file. What gonna do is I am gonna add some modification to this file. I have done now. Since Git is tracking this. Now if I just run git status, earlier if you see, it was highlighted as a untracked file, but now this file is under the tracking of your git. Now it is saying, okay, this file is my under track scale, but it is modified, it is not matching with the previous state of the file, right? So what I have done is I have modified. If you want to keep this file, what you can do, you can git add this to update what will be the committed. Similarly, what we have done for the initial commit, you can add, then you can commit, and the file got moved from your modify to working area after adding, and then it will go to staged area. But if you see, okay, no, there is something wrong with that file. This is something that was accidentally pushed to that file. So there is a way. What you can do is you can just run git restore, and what I want to restore, I want to restore it, and it has done. Now if you want to run, you can see that again. Why? Because this file is having the same content which was cached inside the git, right? So that's what that you can restore from the working area again to your project folder. Now let's say I have this modification, I need to do this. Now I need to add this. You can just simply say dot and it has added. And now if you run git status, again you can see that, okay, changes to be committed is ready, modified this. What I can do is I can simply go and I can add this file. Again, restore we have done. That's what we have done. But let's say now it has moved to which one? This area, right? Now git restore help to recover the file. That's what we have already seen now. It is helping us with this file. And if you want to restore the staged file to the working area again, then what you need to do is you need to do, and that's what it is saying. Now it is ready to be staged, right? But if you want to unstage, that means that you want to keep that file again to the working area, right? What you can do is you can run this command and just simply say this. Now if you run git status, it is again saying that changes not staged for submit. You can again go and you can modify this. I will go now add this file again, and now if I run this git status, my changes are ready now, right? That's what you can do it for your file. Let's see what is next. There is a git ignore file. As of now, I'm not gonna introduce this git ignore. Maybe later on I will do. Now you can see that git rm. It is help you to, if you have done accidentally, let's say I have created a secret here, right? And if I just run git status, now you can see I have two files. One is the modified and one is the untracked file. I There is a way what you can do. You can just simply say git add dot, and you can, it will be gonna add all the file under the committed. Or you can do this one. If you want to commit this, what you can do, second commit, and it has done. Now your status is again clean, right? Now what you want to remove this file, right? You want to remove that secret. Now you find, okay, I don't want to do it, right? This secret file. It has simply removed it from that secret file. But what has done is it has removed your file completely from your directory, and that's what I don't want. What you want is you want, let me quickly add this and let me show you. Uh, Let me just give some content in this. Now, if you see, you have this untracked file and you have added this git add secret, and you can see this file is staged. Now you find, okay, I don't want to do this. I want to remove this file from here. Now you can see what it is saying is, okay, boss, what I have done is I have already tracked this file. But now you want me to ask, you are asking me to remove it. Okay, you can remove it, but what is happening is you need to specify whether you want to remove it from my cached or completely. Because earlier what happened is when we run the git rm, it has removed that file completely. But I don't want. I want this file to be what? I want this file to be removed only from your cached. This way, you can see that this time if I just run git status, it is again become a untracked and it is deleted because earlier it was deleted. That is, I'll explain you again when you have do this without committed what is happening. But as of now, just understand now when you do this cast, right? It has just delete that file from the cast. It haven't removed. But whereas if you add, let me add again, and I'll gonna run this git state, and if I run this with the F folder, so F flag, what is happening is it is completely removed from your folder. So this is the difference between the cast and the force. And I think it was already mentioned. Yeah, it was already mentioned here, right? And if you want to see, okay, what is happening to all these stuff, you can simply run git log, which will gonna show you, okay, who has done this commit, what was the time, what is the message. So easily you can understand, okay, I have done this to thing where I have all these file to this. If you want to only just to see, I think there is a yes, one line. So it will just give you that commit ID. You can see that 6440C whatever. It will just give you the commit ID of your thing. If you want a more thing like who has done, what was the timestamp, what was the message, then you can just simply run git log, right? And there is a way you can reset. So let me say if you want to reset to this ID, and if I just gonna run this git log, you can see that the previous commit has completely removed and I am on my initial commit, right? So as of now, just don't worry about what it is doing because in coming videos, we will gonna discuss each and everything in full detail. All right, so that was the Git introduction in between little bit deep, and we have done this all these things like how you can do all this stuff. So in the coming video, I will gonna show you how you can install a Git on Linux machine, on a Windows machine, and you can how host your local Gitia server, which is very lightweight. And apart from that, what is that GitHub? How you can create your account on this, and maybe the other one is the Bitbucket. Maybe if time permits, we will gonna discuss that Bitbucket as well. And what is the difference between Git, GitHub, and Bitbucket? Right? So that is the agenda for our next video. So please subscribe to my channel and hit that bell button so that you will not miss the next video of this course. All right. So that was the uh, introduction session for the Git. And maybe if you found this helpful, then please, again, I would recommend to just comment it out so that it can reach to the wider audience. Just share it with your friends who is still in college or maybe already working in this and just wanted to understand more about in Git little bit deep from the DevOps perspective. Okay, so yeah, that's it from the day. I will meet you in the next video, guys. So stay happy, stay learning. Bye bye.